Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim Sedano. I'm the host of Paranormal Insight. Tonight we have Brett Hand, the wandering wizard of the forest, and I'm going to let him tell you why he's called that. So, without further ado, Brett, welcome. Such a pleasure to
Thank you,
have you on the
Tim.
show. So,
My
how
pleasure.
did
My pleasure completely.
So you have a pretty involved story about how you came to be the Wandering Wizard of the Forest. And first off, do I have that title correct?
Well, yeah, I'm known as the Wandering Wizard. I'm known as the Emerald Wizard
Okay.
because I have two businesses. One is the Wandering Wizard Forest Adventures, and one is Emerald Energy Healing.
Okay.
And Emerald Energy Healing is kind of the parent corporation or the parent business of the Wandering Wizard Forest Adventures.
Okay,
Uh,
gotcha.
yeah, I really kind of got into this by one day I decided I was going to try a Reiki session, and everything just kind of changed from there. And then through
So
the years, okay,
what
go
were you
ahead.
doing before that?
So before I was doing that, I was a union plumber for 30 years.
Oh, okay.
So I like to tell people that when I was a plumber, I removed stoppages from buildings, and now I remove stoppages from people.
So your overall business model didn't change too much. It
Yeah,
just
exactly.
the paradigm shifted slightly, but not by much.
Absolutely.
That's intriguing. So you're a plumber for 30 years. You go to a Reiki. Now, for those who don't know, would you mind explaining what a Reiki session is?
So if people are familiar with the chakras, which is your energy centers in your body, in your light body, a lot of I think it's originated in India,
Mhm.
the theory of the chakras. If you have any blockages in your energetic body, in your chakras, it can show up in psychological, emotional, spiritual, physical, um, areas in your body.
Okay.
So I was dealing with like a pinched nerve, I think, or a bulging disc or something of that nature. Had pain in my neck and shoulder, and I'd gone to chiropractic. The chiropractor was working on me. He suggested I go and get X-rays, and I kind of balked at that. I said, "Nah, don't really feel like going to, Western medicine." So I
Okay.
went to have some acupuncture done, and did that for a little bit. Was getting some relief, and then I don't remember where I saw it, but somewhere I saw Reiki, and I'm like, huh, I wonder. I've heard of this kind of, but not really. Not really sure. So I decided, okay, I'll book a session. So I went and booked a session, and that session really kind of gave me a blueprint of what my life was to be from that point on. I had a vision where I was in the forest, commanding all four elements, healing people, and it just got more bizarre and more crazy after that.
So
So
I'm sorry, you walked into the Reiki session and you had the vision during the session. Is that correct?
that's correct. And
Wow.
when I told the Reiki master about my vision, she tells me, she goes, when you walked in here, I had a feeling you were a druid. And I was going, wow, that's pretty cool. What's a druid? You know,
Yeah.
but that started my research on what druidry is, where it came from. Led me to, because I was adopted, so it
Oh,
led me to go to ancestry.com, have my DNA analyzed to find out where I actually came from, and indeed I am Celtic.
oh, fantastic. Oh,
And
and the Reiki master picked up on that. That's intriguing.
yeah,
Now, may I ask, at the time, were you wearing the beard?
no, actually,
Okay,
I
just
was
curious.
clean shaven, short hair. I was looking professional for my job. I was working as a plumbing supervisor for a Los Angeles County hospital. So, yeah, that really just intrigued me. And so I had another Reiki session. And again, I had another vision. So if you want me to get into the visions, I can describe the visions as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind hearing. So your first vision is your. Okay, why don't you go ahead and tell me about
Okay,
your
so
first
my
vision?
first vision, so she sits me down before the session and lets me know, uh, you know, you can have, some people have visions, some people see colors, some people have, sensations. She goes, don't try to guide it, just let it go, see where it's going to go, where it's going to take you. So she starts working on me, puts the mask on me so I can't, so it's dark.
Mm.
And I start into my Reiki session, and wham, I start visualizing, I start seeing this person. I'm looking at this person walking, and this person was wearing a robe, had long hair, because I was seeing him from the back, and I'm thinking, am I looking at Jesus? Yeah, I
Mm.
really didn't know what it was, but this person was walking through a field of flowers, like just wildflowers. And so as I'm watching, all of a sudden, I'm that person, and I'm
Oh,
seeing it first person. And as I walk into this field, I'm walking in this field, and I just bring my hands up like this, and I call the forest. All of a sudden, I'm walking in the forest. And so as I'm walking,
you like teleported there, kind
I don't
of?
know if I teleported or I commanded the forest around me.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So however you want to interpret that is valid, I guess.
Okay.
So as I'm walking, I started going into this deep, dark part of the forest, and I could see that there was, on the right-hand side, there was a cave, and there was like a glow coming from it, like there was a fire inside. And I could sense that there was a being um, near this cave,
Okay.
right, waiting for me on the trail. And so I kept walking. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. And so I stopped, and asked the being, I said, is there anything you need to tell me? And the being says, everything you need, you'll find on your path. Like, how Yoda is that?
Yeah, no kidding.
So I said, okay, thanked him, and kept walking. And then I came to this cliff. It was like a sheer rock face. And it had a stone circle, probably about 8 feet across in diameter, and in front of it on the ground. And so I stepped into this stone circle, and I started doing like a Tai Chi or a Qigong type form.
Okay.
And I looked up at the top of this cliff, and there's this thundercloud, just building, and it's rumbling thunder. And I look up, and all of a sudden this lightning bolt comes down and strikes me right on the forehead,
Wow.
knocks me back. And I stood up, kind of dust myself off, and I start doing my form again, right? And then I look up again, and the lightning strikes me again, only this time it sticks. So there's this arc going from my forehead up to the cloud, just
Oh, so
lightning.
and it's just constantly going
Yeah.
off. Oh,
And
wow.
so I keep doing my form. The next thing I know, I'm emanating all this energy through my eyes, shooting it out my hands, out my heart. It's just coming, I'm shooting it out everywhere. And so that came to an end, and I start walking again. Only this time I come to a pool with a waterfall. And so I step into this pool, and I'm feeling the water just going over my body. And it feels more like it's energy instead of water.
Mm.
And so I finished doing that. And then I start walking some more through the forest. And up ahead of me, there's this really dense, dark part of the forest. And I see a little A-frame house nestled right in the forest. So I start walking towards it, and there's a bonfire burning, right? This big, huge bonfire burning. And I start going, like, bringing my hands up, and I start commanding these flames up in pillars.
Oh, wow.
And and so then I look around, and I see my family's there, my wife and my sons. And the next thing I know, I'm flying. I sprouted wings, and I'm flying. And I'm
Wow.
flying above the whole scene. And then I come back down, and then my wife motions with her hand. She goes, there's people waiting for you here. And I look over, and there's this huge crowd of people. And right about that time, the Reiki master says, okay, go ahead and start coming back now.
Oh, wow.
And so my session was over.
Oh,
So that's when I explained to her, what happened, what I experienced during my Reiki session.
that
And
was
then
the
she
first one.
told me, the first one, yes. Very first session I ever had.
Wow. That's powerful. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. So you go back and session
So this,
two.
yeah, this time, she says, you know what, we need to do another session with you. So she calls in a shaman to work with her. And so, as we're talking about my previous session, with the shaman, I explained to her what I, experienced in the first vision. And she looks at me right in the eyes and she goes, do you realize that you commanded all four elements?
Yeah.
And then she goes, welcome, Earth Keeper. Right? I
Earth
was like,
Keeper.
whoa,
Wow, that's cool.
chills, man. And so then they start working on me. Okay.
Mhm.
And I go into another vision. So this time I'm like, I'm standing on a cliff looking out over a vast bay. Like it reminds me of like looking out over, the bay in, San Francisco or the Golden Gate Bridge.
Okay.
Because out on the outskirts of this bay, I see these mountain ranges, coming in, and there's this opening, like where you would see the Golden Gate Bridge. It looks similar
Okay.
to that.
I get you.
And so as I'm standing there, I look down and I have my foot up on this ledge and it looks like white marble. And I lean forward and I fall off this cliff, except I'm not falling. There's my wings again. I'm flying. And I start flying over this bay
Yeah.
and I look behind me. I turn around, I look behind me where I came from, and I see this cliff and I see these white pillars with this white dome on there. And I got the feeling that I was looking at Atlantis. And so I
Oh,
flew back towards this structure and flew through it and then flew back out again. And then I flew out in the opening, between the mountain ranges. And I was flying over deserts, over jungles, over cities. I was flying over the whole world, right?
wow.
I looked down and I could see that there was like a horse-drawn wagon with two figures, driving it.
Mhm.
So it landed, boom, down in the back of the wagon. And I looked at them and it looked like they were gladiators, wearing that type of attire. And then
Like
right up,
Roman or
what's that?
like ancient Roman gladiators?
Yeah, yeah, like
Okay, okay.
gladiators. So, and then right about that time, something attacked us from the sky, right? And
Right.
shing, my sword comes out and I start fighting this thing, right? I have
Uh,
swords flying, my wings are flapping around me. And I guess I defeated it because then the next scene, I'm standing in like this big, huge, vast cave, right? And
mhm.
I'm standing there like at attention. And up in front of us, there's like an altar or a stage or something. And I look down and I can see my wings kind of tucked up behind me. And I'm looked down and I see like there's this chrome armor all the way down.
Oh, fun.
And
That
I
sounds
went,
cool.
oh, I'm an angel. I'm an archangel. And so I look out and I see this, at that stage, and there's this bright, bright, intense light. And I realize I'm standing in the presence of God.
Wow.
And so again, okay, go ahead and start coming back, right? Session's over. So that was my introduction to Reiki.
Wow.
My very first two sessions that happened probably about a week or two apart. And that just really got my attention.
Yeah.
And so I learned, took classes from, the same Reiki master, and became a Reiki master myself. And at the time, I was working for the County of Los Angeles as a plumbing supervisor. I'd been working there for like 11 years. And through the course of about a month or two, I gave 2 weeks notice, quit my job, moved to Big Bear Lake, California, which is alpine setting, forested, um, over a mile high in the sky.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. I've been there.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
started my healing practice there. I've been here for like almost 10 years.
So based on this vision, you take the classes. I would too if I were in your shoes, by the way. I mean, that's a pretty powerful, it's like do this kind of leading you down that path.
Absolutely.
Those are such powerful visions. And doing a little bit of dream analysis on my part. Not that
Yep.
I'm a expert, but were these visions in color?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Second question. Um, you said you saw the bulk of this through the first person? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's that's pretty fascinating. Um, and did you find the scene ships to be organic, or were they just kind of suddenly you were doing this and suddenly you're doing that?
Well, the first vision, it was really kind of organic as I was kind of walking the landscape. The second vision was kind of it went from the the battle scene with the gladiators to just shifting into where I
Yeah.
was standing there in the cavern in the cave.
Okay. Um, awesome. That's the end of the dream analysis for me.
Okay.
If I dive in any further, it'll take us down a weird path. Um, so those are pretty fascinating visions. Now, can I ask, have you ever seen the settings you saw in your visions in real life?
I did.
You
Um,
did.
there's yeah, and it's really interesting because and this is what I tell my clients all the time. When you have a vision, because people, routinely have visions during Reiki sessions or Reiki class attunements, things like that. So
Mhm.
you've got to write this stuff down right when it's fresh,
Right.
because you may not know what it means right now, but it's going to mean something down the road, right? So that scene where I was looking out over the bay, right, and I
Right.
saw the the opening in the where the mountains were. I saw that here in Big Bear Lake. There was actually a storm was coming in where the dam is in Big Bear Lake. And so these clouds were coming in between the two mountain ranges. I was like, oh my God, I got chills. I'm like, that's it.
Oh,
That's
wow.
it.
That you saw that. Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
And then
That's amazing.
now my office that I have right now, we just got in here the first part of December this year or last year. Um, I'm have a 2,000 square foot office space that you can see behind me.
Okay.
And I'm nestled in a 30-acre meadow that is all wildflowers. And so the other day I was out walking and I was walking through the meadow to my office and I was stopped and went, wait a minute, this is it.
And
This is the
so
meadow. This
from
is what I
10
saw.
years ago, this just hit you. You just made the realization.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And
Do you,
that's what keeps happening as I walk this path, as the being in the cave told me, everything you need, you'll find on your path. I just have to keep walking the path. Because as I keep walking the path, things unfold,
right,
things, come to a prophetic realization. And I'm just like, okay, that's confirmation. I'm doing the right thing.
right on. Wow. That's amazing. I mean, dare I say I'm a little jealous of your clarity. Uh, because I've always been into the paranormal myself.
Right.
Be it ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot. I mean, um, it's always been. I was watching In Search of with Leonard Nimoy when I was a little kid, and I was
Yeah,
enthralled. I love Twilight
definitely.
Zone and stuff like that. They delve in. They actually early Twilight Zone delved into a lot of paranormal stuff. But so it's always been a part of my life to one degree or another. And
Yeah.
I only just dove in 2009 when I started the Paranormal Investigation Service. And that just opened more. It's similar to your experience. It just opened up more things for me. And then we had the pandemic hit, and I've no more clients for, during that period.
Right.
Um, so I decided, well, I still want to help people out, and here I am on doing the podcast. But it took me the bulk of my uh, life to get to this point. And maybe it's the times we're a little more accepting, or I should say the public is a little more accepting of the paranormal and dealing, with strange things. We have David Grush and the other whistleblowers talk about UFOs for crying out loud, that we do
Right.
have them and we have experienced them and their life forms within and so on and so forth. So, as they say, timing is everything. But I mean, to have such clarity of thought and clarity of purpose, I should say, uh, is something I've never really had up until very, very recently, and you had it two Reiki sessions, and
Yeah. You
man,
know, I'm a big believer that, everything in our life leads us to this point, so, early in life, as we're experiencing things, we weren't ready to arrive to where we are now.
right.
So we had to experience things to, get us to this point.
But do you find that maybe throughout your life, as I look back, and maybe if you look back too, you were always headed here, like it's like, oh, I should have just done this in the first place. Because there were always hints throughout my life that it was leading me toward this type of environment, this type of
Yeah,
yeah.
there were some telltale signs. Uh,
Okay.
you know, as I think in my early 20s, I started, getting into martial arts,
Oh yeah.
and
Me too.
I trained under a student of Bruce Lee.
Oh, lucky guy.
Yeah, I trained with Richard Bastillo at the IMB Academy,
Oh,
uh,
crazy. That's amazing.
and I gravitated towards Filipino martial arts, and
Okay.
I actually competed in Filipino martial arts. But I always had this feeling that the training was something that I was needing to do, not just so I could kick somebody's butt, but it was deeper than that.
Yeah.
And it was part of my preparation. And there was a couple of times in my probably early 20s again, where I would have these feelings of deja vu that would last hours.
Oh, wow, really?
And I I had this feeling that I was being prepared for something. It was
Hmm.
almost like a knowing that, okay, I didn't know what it was, but I was being prepared for something, and just keep walking the path, keep doing what I'm doing. One of the things I learned through my, martial arts journey was the philosophy of Bruce Lee, how he created Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah.
Jeet Kune Do was not created as a particular style, it was more of a concept. And it
Yeah.
was about cross training all these different things and rejecting what's useless and absorbing what's useful.
Yep.
And so I do that with my energy healing. I will, take in things from other modalities, from other beliefs, uh, things that resonate with me. And that's what I teach my students, the same thing. It's like, if this doesn't work for you, drop it.
That's
If something,
fascinating. I've never heard of a healer or a healer master such as yourself. I think we can call you a master, right?
yes, sir.
You've attained that. Okay. Um, actually say that before or an echo Master Bruce Lee's stuff. That's remarkable to me. I really I totally gel with that vibe. I'm a martial artist myself. I don't practice so much anymore, but it's weird. I went from Taekwondo, and then when I did Air Force ROTC, we learned Kempo, which I think is a useless art personally, but that's me. No offense to Kempo practitioners out there,
Well,
but
there's different styles of Kempo too.
there
There's the
are, and we
imperial
learned
Kempo.
the wrong one, I think,
Okay,
because it was so stiff and it
right,
didn't make any sense to do in a combat situation. But from there, I moved to Aikido, and Aikido really resonated with me. And you just use that term too. Use what resonates with you, and
right.
I think that is the ultimate key right there. You have to do what resonates with you.
That's the thing. I mean, that is the thing. I tell people all the time, if there's one thing that you take away from what I teach, it's you need to know what you truly want.
Okay,
You have
excellent.
to know that. You have to know what your calling is, what your purpose, what resonates with you, what just like lights you up, because that is your guidance. When babies are born, we're born with, we can't feed ourselves, we can't walk, we can't, all we know is how we feel,
Right.
our emotions,
Mhm.
and our emotions are it. So we need to rely on that as being the first and foremost. When I have people, because I do coaching and counseling as well with my energy healing, and when I talk to people, I say, if you don't know exactly the thing, you have to focus on how do you want to feel. Once you decide how you want to feel, journal about it, figure out how you want to feel, because you will start drawing in experiences and you'll match that feeling and you'll say, oh, that's it. Okay, that's it. This is, I gotta pursue this because that's making me feel the way I want to feel.
Yep.
So knowing, you know, what you truly want, what resonates with you, is extremely important. It doesn't matter what, the church says, what the school says, what, the parents say. It matters what you feel because you are the only one who knows your calling. That's it.
That's intriguing. That's a great philosophy too. I agree with that 200%. That's that's the way to do it. So you're to go back to your journey real quick.
Sure.
What was that transition? But you said it was a 2 week. You had your two Reiki sessions, and did you study Reiki first and then transition out of plumbing? Or
Yes. Yes.
okay,
I was still working as a plumber, for a few months. We were taking, vacations up to Big Bear. And every time I'd come up here, I'd be going, all right, okay, this is it. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna quit, right? And I get there and I come home from work and my wife would say, well, did you do it? And I'm like, no, I didn't. It was tough, I
yeah,
remember when I gave 2 weeks notice. I'd been there like 11 years. I gave 2 weeks notice. I called my manager over to my office and I'd written up my letter and I handed it to him. He read it. He threw it on my desk and laughed at me. Yeah, right. I'm like, I'm so serious, man. I'm done. And so that was the longest 2 weeks of my life.
I bet. I bet.
But everything culminated. I had, financially, I built up, some nest eggs through the, you know, um, retirements and 401ks and things like that. So I was able to do it. But, you know, I've always been one to say that I cannot talk the talk unless I walk the walk. And so, when I coach people, I counsel people, um, I speak from experience on a lot of things, and
Right.
it's really important to be able to do that. And, like what you alluded to earlier about, I wish I had arrived at this point, earlier in my life. Well, I needed to experience a whole bunch of stuff
Right.
before I can talk about it and I can coach people through it. So all my
Right.
life experiences, good, bad, indifferent, are all valuable, you know?
I couldn't agree more. I was ruminating on that idea. I wish I could have been there earlier, but it needed to happen as it happened. I mean, I
Absolutely.
earned all the grays in my beard. I earned all the
Talk about
yeah.
it.
Yours is longer than mine though. It stands out a little more. But it was it denotes well, hopefully it denotes the wisdom you've achieved
Yes,
up to this
absolutely.
point in your life. And I'm not I was disillusioned by my I felt like a failure initially when I made that realization, but then I thought on it a little more and I came to realize that yeah, it had to happen like this. So from okay, so you sorry, going back to you.
That's okay.
It's your time. So were you did you just pull all your savings and all your retirement early and penalties be damned and go buy in whole hog into um Bear Lake, your Bear
Yes.
Lake location? You did. Wow.
I retired early at 50, from the county of Los Angeles. I'm 57 now. I just turned 57. So, we had been up here for, about a year or so, um, first, and then I was able to, oh, you mean I can pull my retirement now? Let's do it,
Nice.
So, yeah, took it in a lump sum, bought land, bought in fully, started opening up, business after business. Well, not business after business, but location after location. When we work and then, have to go get a job for a little bit, you know. It, anytime you make a decision to make a change like this, to take a leap, you have to stay persistent and you have to be consistent. Through the 9 or so years that I've been up here, I've always, even if took a job somewhere, people always knew where to find me and how to book a session. So I was always here. I've always been here. Made a lot of contacts, being here. Um, I do a Airbnb experience where I lead people on forest walks and do energy healing. It's
That's
gotten
great.
pretty good. And that's actually what started my Wandering Wizard Forest adventures, is exactly that, just kind of rolling with it, until it just kind of morphed and shifted and changed. And I think at this point, I probably have taught so many classes, I probably have like 20 or so Reike Masters under me now. Uh,
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
So
And
I've been
is it
teaching
a
classes
seasonal thing or is it year round?
just whenever. I used to
Okay.
schedule classes and then I'd be stressed out about getting the students booked, right? So I just like, you know what, I'm done with this. And I kind of got philosophical. I said, when the student appears, well, the class will happen, kind of a thing.
Yes.
And so I just wait. Somebody will contact me. Hey, are you teaching? Sure. When's your class? When do you want to take it?
Gotcha.
And then I'll uh, just kind of mold the class around them, around their schedule, and
That's
just
great.
flow
And
with
you
it.
have a place for them to stay at an Airbnb, is that correct? Did I hear that
No,
right?
I don't do an
Okay.
Airbnb. I don't have a place to rent out, but I do an Airbnb experience. So when people go on Airbnb and they book their cabin, like they book their cabin in Big Bear, and a thing will pop up saying, while you're in Big Bear, here's some of the things you might want to
Oh,
do. And
I see.
so they can
Okay.
book the experience while they're booking their lodging.
Gotcha. Okay. That's smart. That's really smart, actually.
So it's worked out
Um,
good.
that's excellent. So let's take you back to your first year up there. What were you doing? Were you building the house? Were you getting all the plumbing and electrical situated, or was
Well,
it already
first year up
installed?
here, I rented a house. I rented it for cash for a year. So we did that, and then I spent the time launching, my presence with Emerald Energy Healing. Um, I really just went all in, um, doing the marketing, the T-shirts, the logos, the signs, all that stuff I still have today. So I really felt guided and um, motivated to really do this thing. I came up here. I remember I told my Reiki master. I told her, I said, I'm going to move to Big Bear and I'm going to create a healing center. And she was like, "Oh, that's nice," you know.
Was
And
she
I'm like,
dismissive, or was she
"No, not
like,
really dismissive, but just I mean, you probably hear a lot of people, get the Reiki master and they're like, "Ooh, I'm going to go take on the world."
right?
And so I've kept in contact with her, and to this day she will reach out to me, and it's like, wow, you
Oh,
know,
good for her.
you did it.
That's excellent.
You, so it's fun, and I tell people all the time, when you pick something to that you're guided to, you got to make it fun. It has to be enjoyable. This life is supposed to be enjoyable. It's not supposed to be, drudgery. You know,
Excellent word. I was just thinking of that word as you came up with it. That's great.
yeah, it really needs to be enjoyable. It needs to be, exciting. You need to be, there's times just about every day be driving to work. I'll look around, I'll see the mountains, and I'm like, yes, I live here. I love my life. And that's what you need to create.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So let me get you, okay, so you got your presence established. Now, are you in the same house you were your first year?
Oh no, no, we've
Okay.
moved around a bunch.
Oh,
We've been
okay.
through our trials and tribulations. We bought a house now. When I first moved up here, I bought property. We were going to build a house on that land that we bought, and it just wasn't meant to be. Uh,
Really?
so I ended up selling it for twice what I paid for it,
Oh, there you
and
go.
that enabled us to have a down payment to buy a house.
Okay. So, may I ask what your distance is from your home to your work?
Basically, I think it's about 12 miles.
That's not terrible. That's not
Yeah.
bad. And I
So
don't think Big Bear has LA style traffic.
no, we basically have two main roads. You got the
Oh,
North Shore and you have Big Bear Boulevard. Um, and then there's, back ways you can take and stuff like that that the locals know about.
Okay.
But mostly it's pretty linear.
Okay.
I say that with tongue in cheek because it it twists and turns, and you think you're going south and you're actually going west, and you think, it's just. But I live on the very east end and I work on the very west end.
Oh, okay. That's still 12 minutes or 12, yeah, 12
About a half
minutes,
an hour drive,
miles.
20
Ah,
25
there was
minute
a
drive.
12 and there's some
Yeah, 12 miles somewhere.
12 miles. That's not bad. That's a great commute. That's better
Yeah,
than a lot of folks. I'm in San Jose, so a lot of people work way outside of town to commute in 2 hours and then commute out 2 hours every
yeah.
single
Oh
day.
yeah. When I lived in LA, I was, doing construction, and there was times when I was driving, a couple hours one way,
Uh-huh.
stop and go traffic.
Oh
It
yeah.
was
Yeah, the
brutal.
traffic's insane. Just insane.
Yeah.
But okay, so you get established, you're humming along. Now, when you go out, when you take your clients, we'll call them clients, students, out on these tours,
Hmm.
your how much pre-selection went into them? I mean, how did you select these different locales?
Well, I have a couple different ones. One of them was is called the Eye of God, and
Oh,
it's a quartz monolith that is a indigenous sacred site. A lot of people go out there, do ceremonies and things, and it's basically in my backyard.
wow.
So that made it that was simple, you know.
Okay.
Then
Can I
when the
pause you
summer,
there real quick?
sure.
I'm a little more curious about this quartz monolith. It's sticking out of the ground. Is it
Yeah,
like super tall or?
it used to be, but during the gold rush, the
Oh,
miners came and they blasted it, figuring that
jeez.
if there's quartz, there's got to be gold.
Yeah, right.
And plus they were trying to, run off any indigenous people,
Mhm.
so they just why not destroy their sacred site,
Wow.
so we talk about that history as we go out there. There's actually even a hole still drilled in it where they were dropping the dynamite in.
Wow.
So
That's insane.
yeah, and it's so powerful out there. At one point, I, shaved all my beard off, shaved my head. I was going to be this, internet life coach, right? And
Right.
I'm walking out by the eye of God one day, and I hear this voice. It said, "Grow your beard, be the wizard." I was like, "What?" I heard it again. "Grow your beard, be the wizard."
Wow.
Because I was doing that before, and I kind of abandoned it. Figured I got to go mainstream to make more money, all this stuff. And so I heard it a couple times, and I made the decision. Okay, fine. I'm going to grow my hair. I'm going to be the wizard. I'm going to listen. Right. As soon as
Right.
I made that decision, it seemed like things started opening up. Before the
Oh,
beard even grew in, things started opening up.
that's
And
amazing.
so the path was open again. It was illuminated once again. So it's a very powerful
So
place.
you actually suffered a lack of faith, for lack of a better term. Is
Well,
that
I was
it?
still
Or
doing the same thing. I was just angling it from a different perspective, right?
mm,
And figured, well, maybe I just got to look like everybody else, got to fit
I
in,
see.
kind of, hit the mainstream. That's not for me,
Gotcha.
you
Gotcha.
know.
Well, that's incredible. So you're out by the Eye of God location when
Hmm.
this happens.
Right.
Fascinating. So well, I want to touch on the Eye of God on one more little point. You said it's a native sacred site. Is
Correct.
this on reservation land or is
No,
this
it's not.
okay?
It's out in national forest.
Okay. Just
So
curious
it's
about that.
totally accessible by anybody who wants to go out there. It's even, you can Google it and it'll pop up on Google Maps. It's got pictures of it and everything. So if
That's
anybody out there wants to look it up, it's called Eye of God.
I've
In,
got in Bear Valley.
yep.
Okay. That's fantastic. I'm sorry. So you find the Eye of God. That's the first place you go. Now, are you
Yep.
walked around on your own at first, or did you take a shaman with you, or when you're other?
No, I pretty much just, go out there by myself, check it out. But one of the other places I go, because there's no water out there, so it gets hot during the summertime.
Mhm.
So I'm like, maybe I should go somewhere that has, more water. So out close to where my office is now, there's another lake up the mountain. It's called Bluff Lake.
Okay.
And so I take people out to Bluff Lake. It's actually, movies were filmed out there. Uh,
Yeah,
there
not
was,
really.
yeah, there was an old movie back in the 60s called The Parent Trap. It was
Oh,
a
of
Disney
course, the
movie.
Parent Trap. Yeah.
Yeah. So it
Ah,
was filmed there at Bluff Lake. And
that's amazing.
also Eddie Murphy was in Dr. Dolittle too.
Oh, sure. They
And
filmed out there.
it was filmed out there.
Huh.
And so there's a lot of history back in there. There's a lot of old cabins because Bluff Lake used to be a stopover for some of the original wagon trains and
Oh,
Model Ts that used to come up the mountain into Big Bear. Long before there was highways coming into Big Bear, that was the only way to get in.
oh, crazy.
So I take them out there. At one time I was a ranger out at Bluff Lake. And so I have a little bit of, privy to some of the knowledge about the area. So I go and give a tour. We stop at a spring where people can gather fresh spring water coming straight out of the mountain.
Nice.
It's just so pristine. It's
Must
awesome. Best
taste
water in the
amazing
world.
too.
Yeah. So I've got, a couple locations. We're building more as we speak. We're in the middle of winter right now. So, um, go walking around, checking out more trails, you know, putting my thinking cap on, so to speak, my pointed thinking cap, and putting together some more experiences. We're probably going to be adding snowshoe tours
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a great
because
idea.
out at this meadow we got just acres of snow. When we haven't had much snow this year, but it's coming. And something that will intrigue you, we're going to be doing UFO watch parties with the night vision
Ooh.
goggles, and the laser pointers, that kind of stuff.
Oh, fun. Now, have you seen anything like that yourself or
You
had
know,
reports
I
come
have a
in?
partner who went out to Sedona and checked it all out, saw how to do it and everything. And just turns out one of the people who was presenting in Sedona lives here in Big Bear. So
That's great.
we're gonna be putting all that together, adding all kinds of neat stuff. We got some telescopes so we can watch the celestial events. As you might imagine, it's pitch black dark out here.
Oh, I'm sure the night sky is just wide open.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you can literally see the Milky Way with
Yeah.
the naked eye.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get just some really cool stuff brewing. Just like the being in the cave told me, just everything you need you'll find on your path.
That's
And so I
amazing.
just walk, and I've had enough manifestations of things by just walking my path that I tend to believe. I have um, a
Now,
pretty good idea that there's some good stuff in my path.
that's fantastic. Now, you in one of your visions, you were an archangel, or
Mhm.
you perceived yourself as an archangel. I hate to say it like that, but paranormal investigator, I got to be objective.
Sure.
Um, so, and you perceived yourself in a chrome armor,
Hmm.
and you were speaking with this ball of light on a dais. You said you're up on a like a platform or stage of some sort.
Yeah, it was like up on an altar in the front, and I was standing way back. I guess there was other people around me. All I really perceived was myself and this entity, this presence, on the stage.
Okay. And did you ever get any sense of beyond your own personal interpretation? Was there anything that came about and said, "This is my name," or "This is who I represent," or anything like that? Was there ever a name given to the entities you dealt with?
Um, I don't. At one point, I did a guided meditation to find out who my Reiki guide was.
Okay.
And when I saw this being walking towards me, it was looked just like me actually, bearded, robed. And I asked him what his name was. He said Ezekiel. And
Wow,
so Ezekiel is my guide.
that's
So,
incredible.
and it's interesting you brought this up because the shaman who did the second session combined with the Reiki Master, my second session, we became friends. And she's like, we need to find out what your lineage is
Okay.
because I think you're in some lineage. And so I said, okay, well, maybe I'm Ezekiel's lineage. So at one point I was going to go see a psychic and it didn't work out. And so my wife asked me, well, you want to do the Ouija board? And I was like, yes, never done it before in my life.
Okay.
Right. So we went in my
I should
original.
pause you right here real
Okay.
quick. Uh, just it's a silly thing. It is a little silly on my part, but every time I hear Ouija board, I cringe because I've had so many clients use it improperly, and they open up a door to all kinds of weird stuff happening in their home, their business, whatever. And so I get a little twitchy. That's why I made that weird face. I just wanted to explain
Yeah,
that
yeah, no, I
to
get it. I was the same way. I'm like, Ouija board, eh? Okay.
you.
So, I did a clearing,
Okay.
I cleared the room, protected the room. Um, and so we were actually, doing it on my Reiki table, had the Ouija board there.
Okay.
So we start, okay, I've never done it before, so I don't know what to do. She goes, put your hand on the thing, so I do, and I'm like, I'm not feeling anything, right? All of a sudden it starts moving, right? And I'm like, you're doing this. She's like, I'm not doing this, you're doing this. I'm like, I'm not doing this, right? And so I don't remember the exact string of questions, but I got to who am I speaking with, right? And it
Mhm.
spelled out Ezekiel.
Oh,
And I was like, well, of course, right?
that's amazing.
So I asked him, am I your lineage? And he says, no, you are Raphael.
Wow.
And I went, so I'm Raphael's lineage. No, you are Raphael. So he
Oh,
can
yeah.
tell me that I'm Raphael. So, this isn't something I just wear on my sleeve and tell people all the time because, I mean, how crazy does that sound?
Lineage of
I'm Raphael.
Raphael. Just put it on a badge, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Just teasing.
So, I asked a few more questions about what I should be doing and things like this. And, I'm doing what I was told to do at this point. So, yeah, when you asked if I had heard any names, those are the names that came up early on in my path, in my journey.
Wow. Now, for those who don't know, would you mind explaining who Ezekiel and Raphael are?
So Ezekiel, I believe, is an angel from the Old Testament. He pops in the Old Testament. He was the one who saw the wheel in the sky.
The
Um,
wheels within wheels and the dissension. He's actually tied in, I guess, in modern day times with the ancient astronaut theory.
right.
Please continue.
So yeah, so Ezekiel is one of my guides, and Raphael is an archangel who is a healing angel, um, and his color is emerald, hence emerald energy healing.
Excellent.
So that way I tied it in without having to say I'm Raphael energy healing, right? So
That's nice.
so I try not to be too overt, and I try to keep it, kind of, low key, but these elements, come up in my healing practice. Um, you know, the stuff I do is I started, I think, well, it's interesting, like when you're talking about Taekwondo, your first,
My first
martial art.
art. Yeah.
That was my first martial art. It's the gateway drug,
It
right?
it really is, isn't it? The
Because most
gateway
people
art.
start with the McDojo in, next to,
Exactly. There's a ton of them
next to
out there.
7-Eleven. Um, but Reiki is kind of the same way. Reiki is what I call the gateway drug,
Mm,
for healing, because a lot of people have this innate ability to channel, to heal people, to project energy. And I don't know how many clients or students I get that say, I think I've already been doing this. And I'm like, you probably have been, but what Reiki does is Reiki gives you a foundation. It gives you a way to label things, give it a terminology, an understanding,
mhm.
so that you can use that as a platform to kind of branch off and create your own Jeet Kune Do. That was my Bruce Lee segue.
Yeah, yeah. Nice, Bruce Lee. I appreciate that. Nice.
So yeah, it's really just interesting, the way this all, starts very simply and then it evolves. So my healing sessions now are like an eclectic collection of, you know, vision, intention, um, using crystals, wands, um, whatever I'm guided to use. And I've been getting really good results. I've been doing a lot more distance healing lately, and I've had people, come back at me after the session the next day and say, "I'm still tingling from that distance session you gave me."
That's crazy. Now, when you say distance session, you like this over the internet kind of a thing, or
Well, I can do that, but what I normally do is maybe I'll chat with somebody, face to face, like Zoom or Facebook Messenger, something like that. Kind of get what's going on with them, and then I'll have them send me a photograph of themselves, and I'll put that on my table. I'll build a grid of crystals, and I'll just start pushing the energy just by myself here in my office. And through it's interesting. In Reiki, you learn one of the symbols is the distance healing symbol. And when we talk about distance healing, it doesn't necessarily just have to be you and somebody else in another location in this time frame. You can go through traverse time, traverse space,
wow.
uh, with your intention and your visualization. You can send healing back to yourself, like in a traumatic experience that you had, like say in childhood or something, where you
Mm.
can start the healing right then and there. Or you can send it forward, like let's say you have a court date, you can
Uh,
send healing to that date, to that location, so you walk into healing when you get there.
oh, wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, so it's really, really kind of cool. You know, I remember when I first started, I was, kind of reluctant to do certain things, like teaching. I'm like, I don't know if I want to teach. I could just do sessions. I'll be good with that, right? Well, the woman that I partnered with, my very first Reiki class, um, she contacted me after I moved up to Big Bear, and she's like, I've been guided to take my Reiki Master, to go up to Reiki Master. I'm like, I think you should. That's really cool. She's like, and the other part is I'm guided to have you do it.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, oh, okay. At that point, I had not even done a class yet. So my very first class was a Reiki Master class.
That's incredible.
So from then on, I'm
That's
just
pretty
like,
cool.
I kind of like this. I kind of like doing these classes. So I just been doing classes ever since.
Excellent.
Um, so yeah, it's really, um, doing distance healing. I was just kind of, what, I really prefer just having people here, tangible, so I can feel their energy and stuff like that. And I think it was JJ Rose actually, who was like, you really need to be doing distance healing. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll give this, because I've done it before. I've
Uh,
had good, really wild experiences. But so now I'm really leaning into it, and I've had a few clients, had good experiences. And so, the thing about doing any kind of um, energy healing or any type of um, things that are kind of out there esoteric is you need to do these things and get feedback, because, I like to, an analogy I like to use for energy healing is like the wind,
mm,
because I can look outside my window. I don't see air moving,
right.
right? But I see leaves blowing,
Right.
right? So I see the effects, right?
Hmm.
So that's the same way with energy healing. When I'm sending energy, I can feel it, coming from me. I can feel tingling through my body, but I don't see, it's not quantifiable, right? But then the effects of it are when people tell me, "Oh my God, I felt this, I felt this, I saw this." They have visions, they feel sensations through their bodies, feel the tingling, see colors, see passed over loved ones,
Wow.
all kinds of crazy things, occur during sessions. And so when I am first teaching a student, I tell them, you guys need to get out there and you need to work on people, okay? Because that's how you build your confidence. It's not an
Gotcha.
arrogance, it's a confidence. You just, when people used to come to me and say, "Hey, I think I have a demon attached or something,"
Wow.
I'd be like, "Oh, whoa, maybe did you talk to the priest?" And now, I've dealt with these things, right? And
Mhm.
people come and ask me, can you help me? I'm like, yes, I can, right? I know I can
Yeah.
do it. And I
Now, were you
honestly,
guided? I'm sorry. Were you guided on your first attempts at expelling or healing from a
absolutely,
demon?
absolutely.
Okay.
Once one of the things I teach too is you got to know who your posse is, right? Because
That's a
we have
great way to put it.
we
Yeah.
have a posse, right? We
Mhm.
have, and you got to know who they are. Whether it be archangels, whether it be your ancestors, whether it be ascended masters, whatever it be, you have people that are around you and assisting you, and you have to rely on them and trust them. And because there's times when I'll be doing a counseling session, a coaching session, and I'll say some stuff that was like, wow, that was profound. Where did that come from? Right? And it's just
Yeah.
I'm channeling,
Gotcha. Wow.
and I'm channeling, but I don't call it that. I just talk and it just flows through me because I allow it to flow through me, and it's really about allowing, and there's two words I use all the time in my classes: visualization and intention.
I was just going to ask you to expand on intention, but you beat me to it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, if you can visualize it, I tell my students all the time, watch the anime cartoons, watch the sci-fi movies, right? Because you can use what somebody else used in a movie and you can add that to your visualization, right?
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm a filmmaker myself, so I can attest to that.
Yeah, so you can recreate in your mind and that gives it, and you can manifest that, right? And when you set that intention, what is your intention is to, let this energy go where it needs to go, or somebody's dealing with chronic illness. My intention is to, alleviate as much symptoms, as much, the source of their chronic illness as possible. Setting that intention and visualizing it.
Okay.
And,
Wow.
we are powerful beings. We are humans. We are powerful beings,
Yeah.
right? We
Right.
can do this, without trying to get too churchy. This is what Jesus was teaching.
Yeah, it's very true. There's a I don't know if you ever heard of that. It's so rare. I couldn't even find it on the internet today if I wanted to. But back in the day, there was a report on an old In Search of Type show that actually documented or had documented proof that in those 30 years in the Bible when Jesus wasn't around, it's like
Right.
beginning of his life, end of his life. That's where it'll have that he went to the Himalayan area and
Yeah.
studied with the Buddhists up there
I
and
believe
learned
he
a.
studied with Buddha.
Oh, is that what it was? He studied
I
with
believe
Buddha?
so.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
A lot of the things that he was teaching, he never said, probably treading on thin ice here, but he never said, worship me, right? I don't think he ever said, you know what? You guys just wait in the truck. I got this. All you need to do is grovel at my feet,
Right.
right?
That's true. He never did.
So, but what he was trying to show is you can do this. And even
Mhm.
said that in one of the scriptures of, you can do this and more. And he was showing us how to do it, not
Well,
just
there's one story in the Bible where he's doing the walking on water thing, and I think it's Peter, he takes out on the water, and Peter does it for a minute, but
and
then
he doubts himself.
he doubts himself and falls into the water.
Right.
Right. But yeah, you never said bow down before me. You said,
Yeah. So, as far as I'm concerned, people that take the path that I'm walking are carrying on that legacy, you
that's
know.
incredible. That really is a great thing to have. I mean, just to not only have it, but to impart it to others. And that's always been my ambition as well. And that's kind of when I do things this way because I'm familiar with technology. I wouldn't mind trying what you're doing
Come
to a
on
degree.
up. Come on up. Oh,
All right.
sit with me.
I'd love Big Bear. It's a beautiful place.
Absolutely.
Um, so is there anything else you'd like to add as far as experiences or as far as your practices at
Well,
this?
like I say, I do sessions, I do distance, I do in person, I teach classes. We do the Wandering Wizard Forest Adventures, which the adventures are always expanding, always adding more. Um, it's gonna be some, we have, our property here that my office is on. We have, meadow that goes all the way down to the lake.
Oh, the
At some
Bluff
point,
Lake?
no, this is Big Bear Lake.
Oh, Big Bird Lake. Okay.
Yeah, at some point, we're gonna, put a dock down there and have kayak, canoe adventures. And it's just gonna keep on expanding and
That's
expanding,
awesome.
you
That's
know,
fantastic.
so, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So, oh, I'm sorry. There is one thing I want to touch on. Reiki itself it comes from where?
Reiki was, we call it rediscovered, um, by Dr. Mikao Usui, who was a Buddhist monk, I believe.
Mhm.
And when he was teaching, his students asked him, how did Jesus and Buddha heal people? And he couldn't tell them. He didn't have an answer. So he went on a pilgrimage to discover, different modalities, and things, went to India and Tibet and China and the like. And he created the form of Reiki back
Hmm.
in the late 1800s. So Reiki's been around since the late 1800s. It was taught pretty much in person only, obviously, um, in Japan. And a couple of students had learned it and brought it to Hawaii, and that's how it got spread into the Western world
So
back in
it didn't
early
necessarily
1900s.
start in Japan. It was around before that, but it
Well,
wasn't centralized or
no, because energy healing's been around since there was, the beginning of time,
right.
basically. Jesus showed that. Um, so we call it rediscovered because he just put together a program, put together the modality of Reiki and gave it a name, Reiki.
Okay.
So he kind of did like Bruce Lee. He put together learned Sanskrit, learned, some of these techniques and things, put it all together, called it Reiki. And that's what started in Japan back in the late 1800s.
That's amazing. What was his background? Do you know?
I'm really not sure. Um, it's kind of funny. I do Reiki, and once I do it, I kind of detach from it. I just rely on my own, experiences at that point.
Mhm.
Because honestly, I have books on Reiki, and I can't. They put me to sleep as like a technical, you know, guide.
Right.
It just bores me, because I'm doing it. I don't need to read about somebody else's experiences.
Right.
So as far as the history and things, there's some stuff in my manual that, I tell my students, we'll touch on it base stuff. But if you want to learn more about it, there's tons of books out there. Look it up on the internet,
Right.
do your own research. I'm going to teach you what I know. I'm going to teach you what works for me. And that's, my classes are very conversational. They're very interactive. People can ask questions. I'll tell them about my experiences, how it works for me, and I'll coach them through sessions and how to do it. And so people really enjoy spending time in my classes, because it's fun. I make it fun.
That's how people learn.
Yep.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Brett's been gracious enough to give me a mini session, and I'm going to record it so you guys can see what happens, and we'll kind of report on what I'm feeling and all that fun stuff. Okay, Brett, please take it away.
Okay. So what I do is I like to build my own energy, and I'll build the energy using like a qigong um, movements. And I've done qigong. This is one of the things I did early on in my practice, is I learned some qigong,
Mm,
and then I found that just by doing this simple motion here is all I need to do. And so I pull this energy up from my dantian, which is would be your sacral chakra right below your navel, and I
okay,
pull that energy up, and then I can push it out.
that's amazing because I feel when you were doing the motion initially, I felt it here in my chest,
Yeah. So this is
and
what
then
this is what we're doing. This is the energy. This is
that's
just
amazing. And when you
life force
push,
energy,
I can feel it.
right.
And we're
This is like
like
life force
hundreds of
energy
miles away from each other. That's
through the internet.
amazing. Through the
Right?
internet, yeah. Well, it is energy going back and forth between us.
Yes, yes. So that's basically what I do. This is just a very simplified, version. I go different areas of the body. I will use a pendulum to kind of gauge how it spins before the session and after the session.
Okay.
And then I'll know where to focus my energy. And then I can scan with, one of my hands over the body and find out if there's any areas of concern, and I can focus on those areas. And I start at the crown and I start pushing that energy all the way through the body, and I pull it down through the feet.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
You
Yeah.
can build a ball and it puts
Oh,
the
wow.
ball.
I felt that in my stomach. That's intriguing. And
So
now
yeah,
I
that's
felt it.
basically very, very simple demonstration.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I did. I felt it. It was amazing. That last push you did with the big ball, I felt in my stomach, or just below it actually. But where you said that the sacred chakra below the belly button.
hmm
Yeah, that's where I
That's where you
felt it.
store all of your life force energy anyways. You know that from martial arts. You
Mm,
build chi,
yeah,
right?
build the yeah, right. Yeah,
Chi is life force energy. It's just a different, terminology for,
right.
chi, ki.
Chi
Um,
key and there's something
I
else. There's
think
a fourth
prana,
one.
they call it
Yeah,
too.
right. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, so it's just building it and just allowing yourself to build it, pull it up through. There's I think in Druidry, there's a concept where you pull in energy through the universe from the stars, the planets, and then you pull in energy through Earth, and they kind of meet here in your heart chakra.
Oh, wow. That's
And so
incredible.
where your heart chakra is, there's your arms, right? So it just
Right.
naturally flows out.
So
It's
close.
interesting. Early on in my practice, I remember I saw a picture of Iron Man, right, from the Avengers, right,
Right.
the Marvel. And I remember he was standing there in that iconic pose, and I'm like, oh, look at that. He's got a Reiki suit on.
And he does, doesn't he?
Yeah,
He has the big heart chakra and all the little dots going all the way down. Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
yeah. So I use that, kind of when I'm doing my kid classes. I'm like,
That's
chant your
amazing.
Iron Man, send that energy out.
That's great. Oh man. I could look at that movie series in a whole different way. Oh man. Brett, anything else to add?
I don't know. I just, when you invited me to do this interview, I approach it like I approach everything. I don't prepare. I just wing it. And
I can
so,
appreciate that. I can
what are you going to
appreciate
do? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to wing it,
that. Just do it.
and I
Okay,
suppose
why don't you tell everyone how to reach you and how they can book sessions and that type of thing?
okay. So, you can go to wizardforestadventures.com, all one word, and you can find me there. There's links to my Facebook page. I'm on Facebook, Wandering Wizard Forest Adventures. I have a YouTube channel. I have a Instagram, all that, you know,
I'm
usual
on it.
stuff.
Yeah, you and I are friends on that.
Yeah, all the usual stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, go to wizardforestadventures.com. You can book sessions right straight through there. There's a whole list of all my services. I have a blog. You can put your email address in there and get updates from me through email. And I guess that's kind of the thing now. Just you got a website, you got Facebook and Instagram, and you're good to go.
Seems
So
that way, huh?
yeah,
All right, Brett, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Uh, Beyond informative. I can't believe I learned quite a bit. I learned
very
quite a bit
cool.
on this show, and I hope our audience did too. I'm sure they did. And I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Paranormal Insight. Tonight's guest has been Brett Hand, the Wandering Wizard of the Forest. And thank you so much for joining us tonight, and have a great rest of the week. Thank you for watching and listening. Please click the subscribe button and activate notifications for future episodes and other content. If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to discuss on the show, please email us at paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram under @paranormal_insight.